Cost of inaction section of the sales call structure. So let's go over it. First, we're going to go over the transition part from the previous steps and the next steps, which is from the desired situation, transition, cost of inaction, transition into how you transition into the pitch. All right. So previously, we went over the desired situation. How does it make you feel to get the desired outcome? And at that point, now what we want to do is just start easing into the cost of inaction. Now, the problem is if you build them up with all the emotions, the positive emotions, and you ask them, hey, what happens if you don't do this? Then what's going to happen is they're going to more likely to be fighting back more, meaning that, oh, that's never going to happen. Because the discrepancy between all the positive emotions, all their dream, and then you just take it away, is just too far out. So what helps them ease it up and get a better cost of inaction is when you bring them back to reality and then get into cost of inaction. I learned from Matt Ryder. So the question you ask is this. Okay, so how does it make you feel? Does it feel awesome? Yeah, I can see that. And with the current skills would you have it area now, how close are you to being able to be that identity, getting that outcome? Okay, so as a biz off, for example, so with the current skills you have with Airbnb now, how close are you to being able to be that son, retiring your parents, making that call? With the current skills you have with approaching women now, how close are you to being able to be that guy, feeling confident? And with the current strategies and the skills and the accountability you have in place now, how close are you to being able to be that grandfather, losing that weight and walking your granddaughter down the aisle? With the current lead generation strategy you have in place now, you get the point, right? So with the offer, you just plug that in. And at that point, okay, you get not close at all. I'm close, okay? And then from there, you want to get them to say, I'm not close at all. And then you ask, why is that? Because again, now they solidify why they're not close. And then we go into the cost of inaction. So what happens if problem keeps going on, right? You never achieve the outcome. What happens then? Okay. What happens if you are never able to make that call to retire parents and you keep being stuck in your cubicle feeling frustrated? What happens then? And then you want to get an actual cost of inaction. This would suck because you want to settle for that? No. I mean, you don't have to. You can just push it off for another 2 years like it happened for the last 2 years. So you do a takeaway. No, I got to do something about this now. But why now, though? Why not just push it off? Because of this. Okay. And especially with this, how you say this, different people can get away with different things. So for example, the way I sell is I'm kind of like poking fun in the beginning and then I'm challenging them. So when I say like, you don't have to do this, man. I can be more, I guess, aggressive with it. And they'll be like, no, I need to do something about this now. Now, but if you haven't done that, you just got to tailor it if it's just not your personality, right? So a safer way to asking is like, okay, but why now? They want to just push it off for another 2 years like you have for the last 2 years. Especially if they had tendency of pushing it off, you want to bring that back. You want to bring it up again. Okay? Like, why not push it off for another 6 months like you have for the last 6 months? Why not another 16 months? And then be like, yeah, I got to do something because I'm not getting any older. So at that point, all right, cool. So based on what you tell me, what we do would work for you. So if you want, I could just walk you through what we do, how we do it, and help you be that son, retiring your parents. So you want to tie to their tangible and emotional outcome. I found that that's more effective than just a 10 grand a month, for example. So if you want, I can just walk you through what we do, how we do it, so you can be that guy having the dating life you want with beautiful women, actually feeling like the man. So if you want, I can just walk you through what we do, how we do it, help you get that consistent lead generation in place so you can scale the company to 50 grand a month, spend more time with your daughter. Want to do that? Yes. And then you go into your pitch. Okay. Let's go into the decision tree. So we first go because you can get different answers. So you ask, all right, so with the current skills you have with X now, how close are you to being able to be that guy, getting that outcome? And then the answer you want is not close at all. You ask why, like you said. But you may also get answers like, well, I'm close. Okay. This could happen because of different reasons. It could happen because either you haven't built a big enough gap, meaning that let's say they're making 4 grand a month and they only want to make like 6 grand a month. That's like, I mean, they kind of are close, right? That's kind of fair enough. Or they may feel you haven't established the problem well enough up top, right? Or this person's like one of the super like, I'm going to make anything happen, right? Either case, how you handle that as a band-aid is this. Okay, so you got to seed doubts. How we do that is by using numbers. So, okay. So they're like, yeah, I'm close. Okay, so let's say on a scale from 1 to 10, right? So you interject pretty early on. Okay, so let's say on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being I'm making 20 grand a month from my Airbnb business. I retire my parents in 3 months. And if they said that's the time frame, and one being nowhere near it, where would you say right now the current skills you have at Airbnb? They'll be like I don't know, something like higher than 6, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. To be like, hold on. I'm not a math wizard, but you want to go from the 2 grand a month you're making right now to 10 grand a month, which is 5 times in your current income, and you're saying you're 80% of the way there. The math is not mathing, and they'll be like, okay, I mean, if you put it like that, I guess I'm at a 2. Why is that? And then you get the same answer because, well, I mean, I guess I don't have the skills. The numbers say I'm at a 2, right? If they're still fighting, then you can go through in the objection handling section, there'll be a reframe on I can do it on my own. So you can ask them super technical questions like 2, 3 in a row to see doubts, because what they're lacking is doubts. They feel like they can just do it. So, okay, so do you know exactly how to, and insert super technical thing? You fire the 2, 3 at a time. They'll be like, oh, I have no fucking idea how to do that. So as an example, when I was selling BizUp on how to start, marketing agencies, the questions I would ask is, okay, so do you exactly know how to go into your Facebook pixel, set up the retargeting campaign, and to get a 70% conversion rate? And do you know exactly, and they'll open their mouth to answer that. They'll be like, and then you ask another thing and another thing. They'll be like, no. So if you don't know how to set up your Facebook pixel to get the retargeting campaign, then how would you be able to scale your business? Like, I don't know. And how much you'll be losing out on, how much time and money would you be losing out on not knowing how to do that? They're like, I don't. That could be some trouble. So you see doubt that way. Okay, so for whatever you sell, the super technical things, you know for a fact that they have no idea how to fucking do. Okay, so you don't have those go-to ones in your back pocket. And then they'll say, yeah, because I don't have the skills, I don't know how to do that, I'm just far away. So what happens if you don't achieve emotional driver and problem continues for another time frame? So what happens if you don't retire your parents? You keep being stuck in your cubicle, your parents get older till they're 70. What happens then? So you want to basically, what you're trying to plug in here is their worst nightmare. Their worst nightmare, you plugged them in, because what that does is that's the cost of inaction. By doing nothing, that's the cost. This needs to be greater than the cost they're going to be making, which is the 5, 10K, plus them getting outside their comfort zone, plus whatever. So you plug that in. And then you'll get either one of these answers. They'll either say, that would suck, or they say, oh, I'm not going to let that happen. That'll never happen. Let's go through first with this one. Oh, that would suck. How so? So you ask a probing question to get them to elaborate on why that would be terrible. So there's different questions you can ask, right? So you can say like, how so? Why is that? You can also say, okay, so, but what are the day-to-day ramifications if it's sucking? They'd be like this and this and this and this. Okay, now they're elaborating, more visualizing. We had them visualizing the positives, the dreams they have, the goals, and now we're having them visualize on the other side, which is a bigger driver for most people. Okay, now if they fight, be like, I'm not gonna let it happen. Well, you have so far, and you kind of pause for a little bit, let that sink in, and then they'll try to think of what to say. And before they say something, well, you have so far. So what happens if you keep letting it happen, and if you keep being stuck in your cubicle, and your parents turn 70 years old, they're still working? So you just re-ask it, because it's true. Well, you have let it so far. You haven't done it. Also, another thing I like to say is, well, if you could have, you would have. Simple as that. And it's true. If you could have, you would have. If you knew exactly how to get to 20 grand a month, you would have gotten to 20 grand a month. Or whatever the outcome is. And if they keep fighting, well, that's not going to happen. What you do is a quick analogy, okay? You want to make your analogies very concise if possible. So I learned this from Matt Ryder, and I've seen him do this on sales calls when I hopped on the sales calls with him. But analogy, he used to have like a long drawn-out ones that I used to use, but now he has a more shorter version of it. So have you ever seen people getting out of a burning building? They're like, yeah. And are they walking or running? Running. Why? Because they don't want to die. Right, because they understand the enormous consequences of their inaction. So humans don't run as fast and hard as they could unless they have a reason to. So if you want to run faster, to retire your parents, get out of your job, then you also need something that you're running away from. So what's your burning building? What actually happens if you don't? So analogies are pretty powerful because it's kind of a crutch. It's kind of like a training wheel because the better you get at sales, the less you need them at all. But in the beginning, it's good to have it as a training wheel. So what that does is it helps people take ideas and put it into perspective that they can relate to, have a form of reference. So they understand the point better. And they'll be like, yeah, that would suck. Why? And then you take them to the same process. And then you get an actual consequence, actual cost of inaction. And you ask, you want to settle for that? No. Because you want to get them to fight. Like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to do something about it. But hey, you don't have to do something about this now. This is called a takeaway. You can just push it off a day, a week, a month, a year. I mean, most do. Most will. If they haven't already pushing it off for a bit, then you can also put that, like I said, I mean, you don't have to do something about this. Not even pushing it off for the last 2 years. Want to push it off for another 2 years, another 20 years. No, I need to do something about this. But why now? Why not just later when it's more convenient? And you can just plug in whatever their excuse was before. But why now? Why not just stay inside of your comfort zone? Because if I don't do this now, I'll never do it. I'm not getting any younger. You want those kind of answers. Okay? You don't want answers like, you don't want to accept vague answers like, well, because I saw the ad. Oh, no shit, Sherlock, but you could have been here 6 months ago or 6 months later, but you're here now. So why now? They'd be like this, all right? Well, based on what you told me, what we do would work. So if you want, I can just walk you through what we do, how we do it, and help you retire parents, speed that process on. Want to do that? Just insert the outcome and the emotions. Yes. And then you transition into the pitch. So go practice this. Start practicing, say it out loud on your own. Start incorporating this into your sales conversation. Towards this part of the script, on the sales call, you become more assertive. So at this point, you're being like your questions and the things you say have more weight on it. And now you're just like, hey, daddy's home. So you're really like, boom, right? You're being more assertive. You got to get the actual cost of inaction. You're not accepting bullshit answers. That's for all the sales call, but especially here. You need to get a good cost of inaction, okay? And the why now. So go practice this, implement this. Let us know how it goes in the community.